Coming up on this edition of Pinpoint Weather University, we're talking about the nor'easter that rocked the Northeast. Literally, some areas receiving well over 2 feet of snow. Look at these conditions. Some areas, visibility down to 0 miles for several hours and 30 inches of snow in some areas. Man, it was a nor'easter to remember, possibly the nor'easter of a decade for that region. We'll talk about why I'm not a big fan, though, of the name bomb cyclone. Plus, the Carolina drought continues, looking at just how much rain would be needed to end the drought across the Carolinas. I'm meteorologist Brandon Lawson, and this edition of Pinpoint Weather University on Queen City News Plus starts right now. Welcome into Pinpoint Weather University, my friends. I am meteorologist Brandon Lawson here on Queen City News Plus. Always a big welcome to our YouTube viewers as well as we continue to navigate the Earth together on Pinpoint Weather University by talking about how things happen here on Mother Earth. And we're talking about the significant nor'easter. Again, it was a very powerful storm. The satellite imagery, I don't know if it does its justice. It almost looked like a hurricane off the shore, but it wasn't. It was just a powerful area of low pressure that really cranked up over about a 24-hour period. And you can see that on several different satellite imageries and even infrared imagery as well, showing just how powerful this system was. Now, you saw that first clip. It showed kind of what was an eye of the storm. It wasn't an eye. It was actually what we call warm air seclusion. So there were thunderstorms getting going over the Atlantic Ocean as the center of that storm got over the ocean. And that warm air started intruding in on the center of the storm, which is why you had some of that eye formation forming in some of the visible satellite imageries of this nor'easter. Man, talk about a powerful storm. This video here obviously shows some of the snow there, but there were some videos where visibility was down to 0 miles. I mean, you couldn't see in front of you with some videos. So this video here is kind of light compared to some of the significant conditions we've seen in the Northeast. It has been a crazy week for them. And just think, some folks are already back to school. I know New York City received like 20 inches of snow and we're back at school the next day. And again, and look, that's not a knock to us here in the Carolinas. Obviously, we were out for a while after our significant snowstorm of 10 to 15 inches, which doesn't seem so bad anymore, considering that we saw some areas of the Northeast get 30 inches. But again, you got to remember the resources. The resources are a lot higher for the Northeast when it comes down to winter weather events versus here in the Carolinas, where we just don't see them as often. So it doesn't make sense to put a lot of resources into winter weather when we don't see it quite often here. Remember, coming into this winter, we hadn't experienced a snowstorm like that in nearly 10 or 20 years. So it doesn't happen like that very often, but obviously happening back to back, it was a crazy setup. Now let's talk about this nor'easter though. Let's get into some of the science about it. So look, there's the term bomb cyclone. You hear it a lot on national news outlets. I'm not crazy about that name. I think the name makes it sound a little bit more dramatic than what it actually is. Because think about it. When you hear the word bomb, you're thinking an explosion. Something big is exploding. It's wild. It's very visual, which obviously nor'easter was very visible, but you're not seeing a lot of explosions with it, right? Now, when you talk about a cyclone, you hear the word cyclone, you're probably thinking of hurricane. So a bomb cyclone is neither of those things. It's not an explosion. It's not a hurricane. The name, again, it can be a little bit more extreme than the actual phenomena, but essentially it's rapid intensification of what we call a mid-latitude cyclone. So areas of low pressure that form over the U.S. are mid-latitude cyclones. They are cold core systems. I mean, they have cold air at the center of them. But then when you're looking at a hurricane, it is a warm engine type of system. It is a warm core system at the center, and that is the difference between the two. Also, mid-latitude cyclones have fronts too. So bomb cyclone, where does that reference come from? Essentially, it is a 24 millibar drop in pressure within 24 hours. So we talk about rapid intensification of hurricanes. This is essentially the name for a rapid intensification of a mid-latitude cyclone, area of low pressure over the U.S. And again, this happened with this particular storm it bombed out. You'll hear that used a lot, bombing out, or bombogenesis is another name you'll hear to describe this rapid drop in pressure. But as the pressure drops rapidly and the storm gets more intense, you get some of the scenes that we saw there in the Northeast. So looking again at how this setup happens with the nor'easter, you get the jet stream really dipping down to the south here. So as the jet stream dips down to the south, you get your area of low pressure connected to the jet stream down there at the surface, and it rides along what we call the Gulf Stream. So pulling this back up for you full screen there, the warm Gulf Stream aids in allowing the area of low pressure to get stronger and to increase the winds. So that warmer air, or warmer water, I should say, just off the coast is allowing that area of low pressure to get stronger and to bomb out, or area of low pressure to drop, essentially the millibars to drop over a very short period of time and strengthen very rapidly. So again, that is a look at your nor'easter setup. And again, with the nor'easter, why it's called that, that's because the strongest winds from that area of low pressure are coming from the northeast. The winds are coming from the northeast, hence the name nor'easter. It has nothing really to do with your the location of the area of low pressure. Obviously, with nor'easters, they happen in the northeast. This makes sense, but the wind coming from the northeast, just hit the mic there. I'm getting excited about this. That causes the nor'easter name to happen, or it's allowing us to get that nor'easter name. So let me show you kind of just a little illusion of this area of low pressure. So again, you have it down there to the south, forming along the coast. Sometimes it can form in the Gulf. Sometimes it can form right there in the Gulf Stream, right across the eastern coast, so right off the east coastline. And that area of low pressure just strengthens rapidly there. You see it getting bigger. I'm making it get bigger there, just to show a sign that it's getting stronger. And you see those strong winds coming from the northeast, and that is what led to what was a very powerful nor'easter. I was looking at some of the snow totals across the northeast, and they were significant. Some areas were receiving 30 inches of snow from this particular nor'easter. Now, again, this video here doesn't necessarily do its justice when it comes down to how significant the nor'easter was. We had a lot of video coming in that was showing just how low the visibility was from this nor'easter. The nor'easter was creating so low visibility, you couldn't barely see in front of you as you were walking. A lot of folks were taking videos of that. I know some areas in Rhode Island, I believe the top snowfall total is like 38 inches in the Rhode Island area. Warwick, Rhode Island, I know saw like 36 inches of snow. And then Massachusetts, some areas there also, I think Westport received 32 inches of snowfall. So there were a lot of significant snowfall reports. And just think, you look at the snowstorm we had here in the Carolinas, you're probably like, man, we saw 16 inches in Kannapolis. That was a big deal. And yes, it was a big deal for us, especially if you're from here in the Carolinas, like myself, growing up in Concord. I didn't get to see that a lot growing up. So even forecasting that winter storm when we had it, I was very shocked to walk outside and actually experience it. I knew we were going to get 6 to 10 inches of snow, if not more, but going outside and actually interacting with it and being in it was a lot for me. I was shocked to see it, even though I knew it was coming. And that is, the difference between us and the Northeast. The Northeast, this was a historic blizzard for them. Really one of the more historic blizzards they've had in about a decade. But for them, they're probably like, man, this is, if you're from up there, you're probably like, man, this is something we're used to, right? 30 inches, yeah, that's a lot. But, a 10 to 15 or even 20-inch nor'easter is very common up there. So just want to talk about that again. I'm not saying don't get mad when you hear the word bomb cyclone, but I just want you to know what that means, because it gets used a lot because it grabs your attention. It grabs the headlines. When I tell you bombs happening, you're probably like, oh my goodness, I need to seek shelter, right? Bomb cyclones are just areas of low pressure that are strengthening rapidly over a 24-hour period. Remember, 24 millibar drop in pressure within 24 hours is what is defined as a bomb cyclone. The area of low pressure is bombing out, or you can hear it referred to as bombogenesis, or we could just call it what it is, and it's rapid intensification of what we call mid-latitude cyclone. We do have more coming up here on Pinpoint Weather University. We're talking about the drought. The drought has obviously grabbed a lot of attention now for gardeners and folks that are ready to grow crops and raise livestock here as we get towards the spring because the drought in the winter, it's not a major deal because we're using less water in the winter and a lot of the vegetation's already dormant or dead, right? The vegetation grass isn't growing very well, trees aren't blooming yet, although we're starting to see that happen. But during the winter, you don't have to really worry about this. But now that we're getting into spring, this is going to be a bigger issue. We'll talk about just how much rain we need to curb the drought in some areas. And we'll also talk about just how significant this drought could be in the spring and why the drought could be accelerated with warmer temperatures coming up here in just a bit on Pinpoint Weather University. You're watching us here on Queen City News Plus. We'll be right back. Welcome back into Pinpoint Weather University. I am meteorologist Brandon Lawson here on Queen City News Plus. And again, we are talking about the drought now. The drought has obviously started to grab some attention of a lot of folks here in the Carolinas because now it's going to be a bigger issue as we get more towards the warmer months. Let's go ahead and get you a current look of the drought monitor. Again, the drought monitor is released every Thursday by the United States Geological Survey. And it's not just them that are doing the drought monitor. We have so many different agencies that are working together to create a drought monitor for the Carolinas and look and see how dry our soil is here in certain regions of the Carolinas. So this drought monitor, this is as of last Thursday. So we're looking at, I think February 18th would be the date for this drought monitor, or February 19th rather. We'll get a new one coming up here on February 26th. I don't expect it to change much, which is why I'm okay showing it now. So level 3 out of 5 drought, that's what we're dealing with here in the Carolinas. When we look at the Queen City News viewing area, we do have that red popping up there. So level 3 out of 5 drought, that's a severe drought. A level 4 out of 5 drought, that is an extreme drought for the Carolinas. So that essentially is more of the we need rain and we need rain in a hurry type category, especially when you're talking about getting into the warmer months. Even the upstate of South Carolina, a lot of red popping up there. That is extreme drought too, level 4 out of 5 drought. So we need to get rain in here, and we definitely need to get rain in here quick. I was looking at the percentages, and when you look at the percentages of this drought monitor here, we are seeing 75% of North Carolina under a severe drought, which is a level 3 out of 5 again. And then 5% of North Carolina is under extreme drought, which you're seeing there over Concord, Cabarrus County, Southern Rowan County, Stanley County, and Anson County. That's where that 5% is coming in. Also, some parts of Northeast North Carolina, too. And then when you look at South Carolina, 67% of South Carolina is under a severe drought. Again, level 3 out of 5. And then 10% of South Carolina is under an extreme drought, level 4 out of 5. And that is including much of the upstate of South Carolina when you look down towards the Greenville, Spartanburg region. So this is a significant drought. So this next map I show you, it's from the North Carolina Environmental, let me make sure I'm getting that right. North Carolina, no, excuse me, not North Carolina, the National Centers for Environmental Information. So essentially, the National Centers for Environmental Information, they divide each state into climate divisions. So this isn't looking county by county. When you're looking at this map full screen, this is looking at climate divisions. I know North Carolina, we have 8 different climate divisions here in the Carolinas, here in the Tar Heel State, per the National Centers for Environmental Information. And I can't remember exactly how many divisions South Carolina has. I think it might be like 6 or 8. But again, we're just breaking all these different regions into climate divisions to figure out how much rain is needed to end the drought. So this is looking at how much rain would be needed to end the drought in 1 month. Before I show you the numbers, I just want to show you the divisions first. So you're looking at Cleveland County, Shelby, Gaston County, they're in Gastonia, Lincoln County, and Lincolnton. You've got Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, Anson County, Cabarrus County, Stanley, Union, and also I think I mentioned Anson already, and Richmond as well. So that's all one division. You go a little bit further north, you've got Catawba County, you've got Iredell County, Rowan County. That's all in one division. You go even north of that, you've got the mountains, Watauga, Ashe, and also Avery, all under one division there. York, Chester, Lancaster, you're all in one division. And then as you gain towards Chesterfield County, You got another division there. So again, that is your different climate divisions that you have. So how much rain would be needed to end the drought in all those climate divisions? So these numbers, I know it's a lot. It's a lot of numbers plotted on a screen. Let me kind of explain it for you here. So where we just mentioned that first climate division, Cleveland, Lincoln, Gaston, Mecklenburg, Cabarrus, Stanley, Union, Anson, and Richmond, that is one climate division that needs to see 10 inches of rainfall in 1 month. You look further north towards Salisbury, Statesville, Hickory, those areas need 8 inches of rainfall to end the drought in 1 month. 7 inches up in the mountains towards York, Chester, Lancaster, 9 inches of rain needed to end the drought in 1 month. 5 inches towards Chesterfield County. So obviously, less rain needed there to end the drought because the drought isn't as significant there. But we're not going to get 10 inches of rain in 1 month. Now, if it does happen, you start thinking about maybe flooding issues, and we don't want that. We want very slow progress. And I'm going to show you how much rain would be needed to end the drought in 3 months. And I'm going to show you kind of how this develops a little bit more. So this is looking at 1 month. Now let's go ahead and show you how much rain would be needed to end the drought in 3 months. So notice the shades get darker there over many of our climate divisions. That's because more rain will be needed to end the drought in 3 months. Obviously, you need more rain because over those 3 months, you're averaging a lot more rain. So that's why you need more rain in 3 months. So these numbers, while they seem alarming, this is looking at over a 3 month period. Remember, we averaged about 4 inches of rainfall in Charlotte during the month of March. We averaged about 3 to 4 as you're getting towards April and May as well. So if you get your averages, 4, 3, and another 3, we'll just do that. We'll round around 10 or 11. You're expected to get 10 to 11 inches of rain anyway in Charlotte over the next 3 months. If we can just get above average a couple of those months, we can maybe do this. So here's the deal. You look at Charlotte, you look at that climate division that Charlotte's in, 16 to 17 inches. That's how much rain would be needed to end the drought in 3 months. About 15 inches for spots like Salisbury, Hickory, Statesville, 15 inches for the mountains, 16 inches for York, Chester, and Rock Hill. And then for the Chesterfield area, obviously, you only need 10 to 11 inches of rainfall, maybe up to 12, because the drought's just less significant there. So that's kind of breaking everything down for you, kind of showing you where the drought is more significant and how much more work needs to be done. I want to compare this to credit card bills. Not to bring up credit card bills here on the show on Pinpoint Weather University, but overcoming the drought is much like paying off a big credit card. So when you're overcoming the drought, again, it doesn't start overnight. The droughts do not start just pop up overnight and then they end overnight. That's not how it happens. It's a slow process in starting the drought, and it's a slow process to end the drought as well. So it's very similar to paying off a big credit card bill because you're not going to be paying off a big credit card bill in 1 month unless you hit the lottery, which the lottery for Mother Nature would be an abundant amount of rain, and it could cause issues like flooding. So you don't want that either. You don't want a lot of heavy rain either on drought because it doesn't drain very well. Dry soil, as the rain comes down hard and hits the ground, it can't soak into dry soil as it would saturated soil. So the water just runs off into several different tributaries and smaller creeks and drainage areas, and it can cause the water backup and flooding issues. So again, think about recovering from the drought as a similar as paying off a big credit card bill. You can also look at it with your health goals. When it comes down to me, I've been on a few different weight loss journeys, and when I went through those weight loss journeys, I didn't do it in 1 week. I had to do it over months and months worth of work, goals, and time. And that's another way to look at it too when it comes down to getting the drought cleared. So let's talk about why I'm worried about the spring when it comes down to this drought. Now, normally when we get into the spring season, we are looking at more of a wetter season when it comes down to spring. We just get more rain, we get more fronts, storms, things like that. But heat also can cause the drought to accelerate a little bit. So this is a great chart from Climate Central. I use it on air on Queen City News, and I'm using it here on Pinpoint Weather University to just kind of help describe how heat drives droughts even more. So as the air gets warmer, it gets thirstier as well. Think about when we get very warm. If we're out on a run and it's a very hot day outside, Yeah, we're gonna want to drink some water. We're sweating a little bit. So the warmer the air is, the more moisture the atmosphere can hold, and the more moisture the atmosphere is going to want. So where's the atmosphere gets the moisture from? It's pulling the water from streams, soils, plants, and other bodies of water like lakes, rivers, things like that. And that, in essence, can shrink the water supply. It can boost the wildfire risk because you're essentially drying everything out even more, like our soils. It can harm your crops. It can cause issues with livestock as well, because with livestock, of course, you need hay, you need grass to grow. And if you're not having the grass growing, it's going to cause no feed for your livestock and things like that. So that's something else that we'll be monitoring as we get more towards the spring months. Again, you talk about more of a warmer atmosphere. You talk about drying out the earth even more. And that's why we're talking about the drought possibly getting worse as we get towards the spring months. Now, if we can get into a wetter pattern, more rain during the spring, maybe turn this around. So I wouldn't panic just yet. Now, if you're a gardener, and you like to grow, keep in mind, you don't want to be growing now anyway. It's February 25th. Now, some of your colder crops maybe, but we're talking about maybe like mid to late March, early April when you're looking at growing your crops. Because again, we can still have freezes in March. I actually want to pull it up right now here for you on Pinpoint Weather University. I'm not going to pull up the chart itself. So essentially, I can pull some data and figure out just exactly when our latest freeze is. The latest freeze we have ever experienced in Charlotte was May 2nd. That was a pretty strong outlier in 1963. But our average last freeze here in Charlotte happens March 28th. So if you absolutely want to grow without maybe the concern of your crops having a freeze, March 28th is your day. That's the average date of the last freeze, March 28th. Now, when we get a little bit closer to March 28th, the last week of March, we'll be able to look at the weather a week ahead or look at the climate patterns a couple weeks ahead and tell you if you're in the clear or not. But just keep in mind, I know there's going to be some panic now when it comes down to the drought because we're getting warmer and we're going to see grass isn't growing very well. Trees might be struggling somewhat because we just haven't had enough rain. And we might get a little bit worried about that, especially as a gardener or somebody that's growing crops, whatever you might be doing. So I don't want you to panic just yet. We still have another month or so to curve this before we start running into bigger issues. But my biggest concern right now when it comes down to the drought would actually be the wildfire risk. That's going to be my biggest concern as we get more towards the spring months because you warm up the air, dry out the soil, and you get more windier days. That's going to cause a concern for wildfires. So we'll hold it tight. We'll figure it out. Try and get through this drought together. We're getting some rain here over the next couple of weeks. Is it going to dent the drought? Probably not, but it will keep us where we are and we won't get worse. Coming up in just a bit, though, you might be sniffling a little bit. Might not be sick. Pollen might be making a return. We'll talk about that coming up here. Welcome back into Pinpoint Weather University here on Queen City News Plus. Want to get it just right on your screen for you. We're looking at pollen in the Carolinas. Pollen season, it can start as early as February in the Carolinas. And this year, it has kind of already started. I was sniffling a lot, and the big reason why, we had temperatures in the 80s last week, and the trees started blooming a little bit. So if you have the sniffles or your eyes are getting red and you're maybe having a little bit of trouble with the breathing because of the allergies, that is why. Again, pollen is starting to make a return here in the Carolinas. Now, pollen season starts generally in March in the Carolinas, can start as early as February. It peaks in April, though. Now, when you look at the top tree allergens here in the Carolinas, it's the oak, hickory, birch, and yellow poplar trees that really cause the biggest issues. Now, grass pollen, that's another thing that hammers me. Tree pollen's one thing, but grass pollen, man, that is the knockout punch when it comes down to pollen levels. So grass pollen increases closer to summer, obviously when the grass starts growing a little bit more. I guess that's one thing the drought could help you with, it maybe eliminating grass pollen, but obviously we don't want that. We want some rain to happen. And again, pollen levels have started a bit, and Friday, February 20th might be a big reason why. At 83 degrees, that was the actual high temperature for February 20th. The old record was 77 degrees. Get this, folks, before we go on this edition of Pinpoint Weather University, That 83-degree day on February 20th, that was the hottest day we've ever had on record in Charlotte during the month of February, beating out 2018 when we had 82 degrees. That's going to do it for this edition of Pinpoint Weather University. I'm meteorologist Brandon Lawson. As always, take care of yourself and each other as we navigate this earth together. Be easy, folks. We'll see you next time.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.